I took one class recently that was called Fierce Conversations, and it was a 2-day class, and it was something that the Vice Provost for Libraries and Learning Excellence asked all people on our leadership team, all our supervisors to take. And so got that request and signed up for it and participated in it for 2 days.
There were 4 different units, and I've used all of them since. It was interactive and engaging. The time flew by. I was looking forward to the second day, not watching my clock. So it was great.
It's hard to give up 2 days. Even though something sounds interesting, you're also thinking about, okay, I'm going to be away from my desk, away from my work for 2 days, and can I really afford this? So I was a little skeptical. And I'm glad to say that in the end, I felt I took a lot away from it. So it was a good thing to do.
Latrice is excellent at really engaging and I would say disarming participants so that they feel like they're in a safe place where they can be vulnerable and really use it as an opportunity for self-improvement and honest reflection. And that's a difficult thing to accomplish as a facilitator, and she is a pro.
The course was facilitated by Latrice Ferguson, and she was great. She had a great sense of timing when moving us along and not letting us get stuck or bored.
Latrice has a way of making it very relevant for academics, for professors and faculty, in a way that I was skeptical would be possible. So often when I read professional development or self-help type frameworks and theories, it doesn't really feel like it applies in my field. And all of her experience in academia and education has really helped her translate it so that it's relevant for faculty.
She also was very good at talking about different tools to use with Fierce Conversations, giving us a chance to try it out with something real that we wanted to bring to the situation, and then giving us a chance to kind of analyze or reflect on what we had just done. Because I think sometimes in workshops you can either just hear about things, or another facilitator will have you try out things, but often they leave out that reflection piece. And I find that very important, to hear about, to do something, and then step away from it and think, okay, what does this really mean for me?
It helped bring it from kind of the stratosphere down home into something that I could really take away and use later.
The course is really engaging. A couple of things that made it that way were that when we went into activities, we changed up who we were with. We weren't always with the same partners, so you get new experiences, people with different responsibilities, which make me think about my setting a little bit more. So it was very engaging in that way. I think the other way that Latrice made it very engaging is that she didn't let us stay at a shallow level. So if we were doing something or saying something that was staying on the surface, she'd back us up and say, wait a minute, dig a little deeper with that, tell me a little bit more, I'm not quite sure what you're saying. And when she did that, that not only caused the speaker to do that, but the rest of us who were listening to do it too. So it was very engaging.
I think a lot of people are skeptical about professional development workshops, that they think they'll either be superficial or not really give useful takeaways that will affect your life, and that has certainly not been my experience.
Even though something sounds interesting, you also realize what you're leaving behind, and you have to kind of make that transition to let that go so you can kind of really immerse yourself in something else that will have a big impact when you come back to your own work setting.
With the workshops I've taken from Latrice, they've been practical and real, and I've had takeaways that I've been implementing ever since, and so I've had a very positive experience, and I highly recommend that other people participate from the Institute as well.
What I'd say about the experience is that it's one that I'd highly recommend to other people, and there's not a lot of trainings I've been to that I would say that about. When you're in higher education for over 30 years, you get to go to some that are great, some that are good, and some that, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't gone. And this very much is right at the top of all the trainings I have had.
The delegation model that she taught shows us how to communicate about what level of responsibility we have for certain items or tasks. And it made us all realize how much miscommunication and misunderstanding comes into play in delegation, and just eliminating that removes stress and frustration in a very perceivable way. So that was definitely my favorite.
It's decision tree that was really important to me. The decision tree is a tool that helps you think about when you're delegating something, or when someone's delegating something to you, because we all report up as well as supervise people. What is it that you're really delegating, and how much responsibility are you giving the person? Because I've seen a lot of things go wrong, both for me reporting up and for me supervising people, when it's not clear what level of responsibility you're supposed to take with this. So I've seen things go wrong when you delegate something to someone and you forget to say, oh, but I still want to be involved in that. And the person doesn't realize it, and they take it off and they do great things, but you think, well, wait a minute, I still wanted to be involved. Or just the opposite. It's like, I want to completely delegate this to you. I do not need to hear anything about it. I know you will take and do a great job with it. Take the ball and run with it.
I'll say to my boss, is this the trunk level or the leaf level? And she'll say, it's the leaf. And then I know.
So getting that clarification from the decision tree model was something that was very helpful to me.
I also liked in the Fierce Conversations, it was the beach ball meeting model that she presented that basically encourages managers to avoid practicing groupthink, where they only bring in people who think like them or hear from people who think like them, but really it helps you figure out how to solicit a better diversity of input. It's helped me think about reaching out to different units across the Institute, so it's, I think, made me and other people from our staff who participated in the same workshop really branch out of our own silos, and I'm seeing real positive effects of that already.
I've always known that the quality of the conversations I have at work is very important, and so it's been something that I've cared about. And yet I think since going through the training, I've had that even more in the forefront of my mind. And so conversation at work takes time, and there are a lot of situations where it's kind of tricky because you don't know, you know that there's an issue, but you don't really know what the resolution should be. And the training has really helped me take a look at that and make sure that when either I sit down with a team or I sit down with another person where there's something at stake, that we make sure that we really address that and not avoid it. And, you know, so easy to avoid difficult things. Who likes difficult things? But I think the impact that the training has had on me is to say, go ahead, do it. Trust that the process does work, and that together, you and the other person will figure out a resolution that's going to be very workable for the situation you're in.
So immediately after taking her workshop, I had a fierce conversation with my husband that has completely helped our household functioning. And it was just because the fierce conversation model itself provided a framework for communicating and listening in a way that we were not succeeding in on a particular topic. And so everything's been going great with us, but there was this one thing that we weren't communicating right about, and that Fierce Conversations model really helped us work through that. The most interesting thing in the giving and receiving feedback class was hearing about how people process and receive feedback and putting myself into the shoes of someone who's receiving the feedback. She put it in terms of, I think it was 5 steps that I go through now in my mind when I'm about to have a conversation with somebody, or when someone's having a conversation with me. I find myself thinking about those steps and stopping myself from having my traditional reaction or response, but really it helps me mediate and filter my own thoughts and have much more effective communication. The Giving and Receiving Feedback workshop has helped in that the feedback I've given, I've seen a more immediate change in response to that feedback than perhaps I would have before. You know, sometimes when you give feedback, it's almost like Groundhog Day, and you come up against the same wall over and over and over. And the framework that workshop provided helped me prevent what I call Groundhog Day from happening.
I was so impressed by the decision tree model that I went back to our office, and we were getting ready to have a staff retreat where all the staff were going to be focusing for a whole day on different planning, strategic planning type of things. And I thought about how the decision tree model could really give us as a team a common language to use. And if we all were using the same language, it would work a whole lot better. So we asked Latrice to come in to our retreat and for just 1 hour kind of work with that model and work with us. And it became even more important to me and more valuable because now the people that I was working with as a team on a daily basis now had the same background. And so we use the same language, and if I forget to say when I'm delegating something what I want the person's role to be, they'll say, oh, well, are you giving this to me as a branch or a leaf? And it's like, oh yeah, I need to clarify that. So in that way, it really helps us all be better because everybody's got the same language.
She tailored it for us, and she really listened and made it fit our specific group, which was wonderful. I use it every day in my conversations with both my bosses, and my colleagues. And it helps so much remove miscommunication in terms of understanding the level of responsibility I'm supposed to take on a task. And actually, coming into it, I didn't realize how much miscommunication was happening, but since taking the class, I now see it and can prevent it from causing issues. So it's been really valuable, and I think we'll definitely continue to use it moving forward.